Welcome to the Her Vibe is Pretty podcast, where you'll be guided on how to step up into your evolved woman,
design your dream life, and start living it. Let's get vibey.
What's up, loves? Welcome back to the Her Vibe is Pretty podcast. Mary, how's it going?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really good these days, probably because I'm for once in the last almost year getting a full night's sleep.
Oh, yay.
Which feels really good. It's incredible. I'm like one of those people that if I don't get a full night's sleep, I'm basically good for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And motherhood will definitely test your patience when it comes to getting enough sleep. So I'm feeling really good about that and overall feeling very awake.
Good. What else are you feeling good about? What's been making you feel vibey lately?
Yeah, let's see. Here's my mom brain kicking in because I know that I have things I'm feeling high vibe about. Oh, my sister, I had her bachelorette party this weekend. So I'm feeling really high vibe about that. I had a really fun weekend with my sister. I hosted her party at my house. So I was still close to home. Jake was here watching Ava, so I could still see her throughout the day, which made me feel really good. But he was taking care of her. So I was able to let loose, have a few drinks. It was really, really fun.
Yeah.
And it was a really good group of girls.
That was your first time doing something like that since Ava was born, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes. It was my first time, really drinking, getting buzzed for the first time and doing that responsibly. But yeah, it was my first time, not being the main person that's in charge of her and watching her. So it was good. And I think it was good for Jake to kind of have to deal with her all day long.
Right. Yeah. That's a big step for both of you.
Yeah, he did a really good job. So grateful for that. Because I was a little nervous, I'm just kind of nervous, oh my God, how's this going to go? He's never put her down for bed before by himself. I'm always the one that kind of runs that show. And he did an incredible job. It makes me fall more and more in love with him. So
my heart. That's so sweet.
I know. So I'm feeling good, getting sleep, had a great weekend. Feeling refreshed for this week. And I also have a babysitter now that just started. Well, she started last week. So yeah, feeling good about that because, oh my God, I feel for once I finally get it when people are yeah, if you are in charge of watching the baby, good luck getting anything else done. It's close to impossible. Finding that balance has been tricky, but I have a sitter who comes. She's a neighbor girl. So I have a girl who comes to watch Ava for a few hours during the day so I can get some stuff done. That feels good too.
Yeah, listeners, that's great for you guys because that means that Mary's back.
Yes, I am officially back, you guys, and so happy about it. So.
And good things to come for the Her Vibe is Pretty podcast.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. So what about you, Sarah? What are you feeling high vibe about?
So first and foremost is our new merch that is launching so soon. If you guys are watching the YouTube, you can see me repping one of our new shirts. It's the vibiest color. It's a crop top. It's so freaking cute. So obviously we always talk about how when you put our merch on, you feel vibey. So that's where I'm at right now. But honestly, these past couple weeks, and some of you may have been following this, they have not been the vibiest because my grandma she randomly got sick. You guys, she was 77 and she stayed out of the hospital pretty much her entire life and the doctors. She was very healthy. And then randomly got a virus. It was not COVID. They tested her for COVID and it wasn't because she had had COVID before and got through it just fine. But she randomly got a virus and she went to the hospital. And so I went over to the other side of the state and was by her bedside, hoping to nurse her back to health and help her heal. And the virus, they couldn't figure out what it was. It was insane. She was there for a total, I think, of 12 days and they couldn't figure it out. And they kept testing her as her health declined and as the virus took over her entire body. And she ended up transitioning. I'm calling it that because some of you know that I am a huge fan of the book called The Journey of Souls. And though I will, and this is what I'm going to speak on in a second, just because I have somewhere I'm going with this, but I let my human mind feel the sadness and feel the grief and be sad. And at the same time, I'm like really harnessing my soul right now. The part of me that knows that she's not dead, she's more alive than ever. You know, her soul simply transitioned. She transitioned from her earthly body as my grandma back to her soul self, back to the soul world, to heaven, to whatever you know, believe comes next after this lifetime. And so that was that. So these last 2 weeks haven't been the most high vibe for me, but I will say the thing that's been making me feel more vibey coming out of one of the hardest, actually not one of, these past 2 weeks have been hands down the hardest moments of my life ever. I've actually never gone through something like this before. I've never lost anybody close to me. I've lost my grandma and grandpa on the other side, but was young, wasn't really close to them. But this grandma of mine, I was extremely close with. And so though I have not been feeling vibey these past 2 weeks, what is helping me get back to my vibey state is feeling. And Mary and I say it all the time. You have to feel in order to heal. But seriously, you guys, like, I've never experienced or felt grief before until these last 2 weeks. And thankfully I'm like right now working with a trauma coach one-on-one, and she's really been helping me explore grief for the first time ever and allowing myself to fully feel it. I can literally pinpoint the place in my body where I feel the grief. I know exactly what it feels like. And so when I start to feel it being activated, I allow myself to go fully into it and feel it. And that's been the only way that, so like she transitioned not even a week ago, and it was like a really hard night. And then the next morning I woke up feeling 100% like full body grief. And I gave myself like 5 or 6 hours to just feel into the grief. I was alone, thankfully. I allowed myself to feel, to cry, to be happy about the memories with her as I reflected. Like, I allowed myself to go through the emotions. And after about 5 or 6 hours of that, I was able to finally like take a shower, do my hair, get some clothes on, and like feel, you know, more like myself again. And so that's what's been making me feel vibey, is just allowing myself to fully feel grief, feel sadness, feel happiness, feel joy when they come, and yeah, move along from there. It's been like such a wild couple of weeks, and there's been a lot of growth in it too, which, you know, I'll share as time goes along. Because obviously I'm still kind of in the thick of it, but feeling in order to heal is what has allowed me to, like I said, start to feel like myself again and start to get back into my natural state as, you know, somebody who is here on earth to inspire and uplift others.
Yeah, I'm proud of you because it is not easy to feel those kind of feelings.
No,
It's so much easier to distract yourself, to
absolutely.
numb, to avoid it altogether.
Yep.
And as we know, that does more harm than good. It might feel like the right thing to do in the moment because it's easier
Yeah.
and you know, you don't have to face and experience those really hard feelings. But it's not doing you any good. So I'm proud of you for facing that because grief, I've had it in limited doses throughout my life, is not a good feeling. Like it is not
Right.
a comfortable feeling. It's
Mm-mm.
like gives me the chills a little bit just
Yeah.
thinking about it. It's very hard. So
Yeah. The human minds hate it.
love
And
you.
I've had people say to me, like, I wish I could just take your pain away right now. And I keep telling them, like, no, I wouldn't want you to. Like, my pain is my pain. It's here for me to feel through. And pain is always a catalyst for growth. And like, I know that sounds, you know, so morbid sometimes to the minds, because there's like a part of me that's like, how could you ever say that you could grow from this experience? But I know I can, because I know that pain's a catalyst for growth. So still navigating that, but I've been able to feel vibey through feeling.
And I would love to dive deeper into this topic too, because I feel like we briefly touch on feeling your feels. And this is something I've been not grief, but the the hormone roller coaster I feel like I'm on right now with motherhood and having a baby has been a lot of feelings
Mm-hmm.
and across the board. And so I feel like it's something that I've been practicing in my own life as well. And I think we could even dive so much deeper into that in its own little episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming soon.
But we'll talk about that more another day. That's really good. And we love you, Sarah, and sending you lots of love during this time because that's not not easy to go through.
No. Thank you.
But today's episode is going to be about something else. And I'm actually really excited for our topic today. So what we're going to be chatting about is the things not to do when you're trying to live a high vibey life.
Yeah. A life where
So
you want
not
to
to do.
feel high vibe, and more so like a life where you really want to continue to evolve and grow into a bigger, better version of you. Mary and I are always talking about like what to do to grow into the evolved self, right? And to evolve into that higher version of you. But we don't really, I mean, of course, the things not to do kind of just naturally come up, but we thought it'd be fun to give you guys an episode of just straight up 5 things not to do if you desire to become the highest version of you and like live this lifetime to your fullest potential and like make this life everything you want it to be. So we try to choose some things that we don't talk about a ton. There are some new things in here. Of course, there will be a little bit of repetitiveness here, but the minds need that repetition in order for things to land. So Mary, why don't you start us off with the first thing not to do if we want to live a high vibe evolving life?
All right. So our first thing is don't be too busy for the things in life that really matter. So the things that come to mind to me are the relationships in our life, making time to move our bodies and exercise, eating well, making time to fill our cup. Those are just a couple things that came to mind when I think of people who are like too busy to do this. I'm too busy to do that, or I don't have enough time for this or that. Those are the things that mean the most and can have the biggest, most positive impact in our lives. And they're the things that you need to be making sure that you're making time for. Yeah. And sometimes I feel like it's backwards in the sense of you think you don't have time to do these things, yet if you were to put those as a top priority, you would find your day flows a lot smoother, that you're more efficient throughout your day, you're more mindful throughout your day, you're happier throughout your day, and you therefore start to have more time and capacity for things that maybe you didn't before because you're like running on E because you're too busy and making excuses for why you can't do things.
Yeah, totally. I think to sum this one up, it's just don't be too busy. And somebody actually asked a question in our Facebook group about this, but basically just take your schedule and start crossing things off and saying no to things and canceling things. It can be so hard for the minds and us to do that sometimes because the minds tend to be such people pleasers. But it is so important that you prioritize the things that are going to make you healthy and happy. So creating time and space. And the thing that I think of too is early on, I can't remember what mentor told me this, but somebody was saying, and I've said it too, I don't have time to meditate. And the mentor was like, you don't have time not to meditate. And that's what I would say to everything that you just listed off, Mary, like the grocery shopping and nourishing your body and moving your body and sleeping. You know, we've all been there. And you guys, just because Mary and I are, you know, sitting here giving you guys this episode, it doesn't mean that we're not guilty of these things, because there are definitely still moments in my life where I'm like, no, I don't have the time to go to bed at 8:00 tonight. Like I got to stay up and late and do these things. Of course that happens here and there, like all of these things. We're not saying that if you do these things, like you're a bad person by any means. It's just, let's start to be more intentional about creating the time and the space to do the things that are going to fill our cup and connect us to that divine energy flow that's going to help us create our highest life. So first one is just don't be too busy. Always create time and space on your schedule. Like if you have to schedule in your self-care, freaking do it.
Right. And that's so the one other thing I want to add here, and we have 2 episodes actually about like regrets that people have on their deathbed, like kind of a morbid way maybe to think about it, but think about like if you were on your deathbed, like what would you have wished you made more time for? Like those are the things that you need to be prioritizing, you need to be scheduling in your day, because there will come a time when you do pass away or transition, and you want to make sure that you are living this life with the purpose and intention that you truly want to be living it with. And I know for me, so everything I feel like in my world these days revolves around being a mom and babies and, raising, a little peanut. And I feel like this big life experience has kind of shift what those priorities are for me. And I've learned from people who are saying like, hey, when you're in this and when you are too busy because you're so focused on raising this little baby and being there to take care of every single need that they have because they can't do it for themselves, you have to be so intentional when it comes to those other things in your life, like your relationship and taking care of yourself. And
Mhm.
so that's where that is like, it's so easy to be like, I'm too busy to do it all, but you can't let that happen. Like that can't happen because you're not going to be the best version of yourself for your baby or for your family if you don't do those things.
Mhm.
So that can be another way for you to think about it, because it's so easy to like put work first, or to just like spend so much time randomly scrolling or just like watching, binging on Netflix, which Lord knows, and you guys know I like love doing all those things too. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I've never done that, because I do it all the time. But I also make sure to make Jake feel special, especially when my attention is like not really on him at the moment. It's like all on the baby, but I need to be very mindful of that. And I'm doing that because I'm aware, and I'm like choosing to be aware, if
Right.
that makes sense.
Totally.
So don't be too busy for the things in life that really matter.
Yes.
Okay, Sarah, you run with number 2.
Okay. This is one of my favorites, and I have been talking about it almost every day because I have a significant other who is on this journey as well, and he's more so in the beginning stages. So we have this conversation literally almost daily. So you guys, if you want to live a high vibe evolving life, do not plan your life based on quote unquote facts / your current reality. Now, if any of you listening to this are scientists or researchers, you're probably like super fired up right now and very triggered. And I get it, because I know that, scientists, researchers, they are like, they live life based on, there's got to be facts in order for it to be true. But I'm telling you guys, if you want to live a high vibe, fulfilling, evolving life, you can't. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason is because, well, first of all, let's talk about the reality. So if you plan your future based on what your reality looks like now, you are like, history is going to continue to repeat itself. There's going to be no opportunity for new creation or evolvement or growth at all, because you're looking at where you're at now and saying like, let me just give you guys an example. So if you are starting a business right now and you just launched a course and nobody signed up, or you just put an offering out into the world and nobody enrolled and nobody wants, your coaching or your mentorship or whatever it is. Maybe you just designed a product and you put it out and you got like one sale. If you're going to base your future business off of this one launch, you're going to fail. You're never going to succeed as a business owner. Like you can't plan your future based off of your current reality, because history will repeat itself. And same thing with facts. Like, let me think of an example that Zach and I were recently talking about. So, okay, here's a good one. You guys know that we just flipped a house and we recently sold it. And
Yay.
yeah, yay, let's celebrate that. So, when we were in the process of selling it, or we still are in the process of selling it, but the buyers, they have something called a VA loan. So this is a loan for veterans. And so typically, quote unquote, factually, in history, VA loans are really, really hard to navigate. Like the inspectors are like really, really anal about everything, and they're really hard on the inspections. That's quote unquote facts, right? And so, but I know enough to know that we create our own reality and we can defy the odds and we can create our own facts based on what we're choosing to believe. So Zach and I were talking and I heard him, have a little concern, like, oh, this is a VA loan. I've had friends go through this. It's really hard. It's this and that. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Like we do not, honey, we do not base our future on like facts or history or other people's experiences. We don't play that game. Let's choose to believe that we're going to pass the inspection with flying colors and that this is going to be the easiest process ever. And he's like, all right, sure. Okay, fine. Like, I get it. Let's do it. Let's manifest this. And sure enough, we did. Like everything that the old version of him was thinking wasn't going to passed. And it should have, like, everything's, great in the house. But like I said, with VA loans based off of facts or history and other people's experiences, those things maybe wouldn't pass in this situation, but they did because we chose to believe that. So that's just one example, but you guys, we can't look solely at facts to determine our realities, or else we're never going to live the dream realities that we desire.
100%. This is very aligned with like manifestation 101. Like if you allow yourself to be so focused and caught up on what is your current reality and things that you're maybe not happy with or not satisfied with, what you pay attention to, you create more of. And you're just like Sarah said, you're just going to keep repeating history. But the thing is, there's so many more things possible to us. Like those are just limiting beliefs. If we just keep things based on whatever is right in front of us, we're humans and our brains are so much more expansive than that. So we have the ability to dream bigger. That's how, like, because we are humans and because we have this ability, that's how our society has continued to grow and evolve year after year after year, century after century. We're not living with horse-drawn carriages anymore or living in caves, like cracking rocks together to start fires. Like, because the human mind has the ability to dream bigger beyond what's in our current reality, we're able to evolve and invent so many new things.
Totally.
I also like the example of like, people think things are impossible until they see them done by someone else. So I don't know the exact numbers, but I think of running, like think of like Olympic running. And, it was impossible to run like a 5-minute mile until someone did it. And then it was like, no one can ever run it faster than this until someone believed they could do it and then ran it faster.
Yeah.
And then more people start doing it. It's like, we limit ourselves with our minds of what we see and like what's fact. No one can run a 5-minute mile. And I'm just making numbers up here. I don't know what actual like records are for these things, but no one could run that 5-minute mile until one person did it. And then a bunch of people could do it because they saw it was possible. They saw that they could do it. And if we just skip that step of having to see someone else do it and we step into the role of being that person and being the one that like sets that new level and breaks through like the things that quote unquote aren't supposed to be possible, it becomes possible. Like we have it within us. We just need to believe that we can do it. And that belief is what gets us there.
Absolutely. So, that's such
a
good example. Yeah. Just one more real quick, because you guys all know my journey. When I was missing my period for 2 years, the doctors, the Western medicine doctors, were telling me factually, you are more than likely never going to get it back, because factually, based on science, based on their current studies of the female body, which let me just tell you, there are not many, but don't want to open that can of worms.
Right.
They said factually, based on their studies, if you lose your period for more than, I think it was like 9 months, you're probably never going to get it back. I could have very easily that day said, okay, I'll listen to you. Like, let me surrender to the facts and but I didn't. I was like, hell no. I can create my own reality. I can choose what my body is going to do. And I'm going to believe that I'm going to get it back and I'm going to do it naturally. And I freaking did it. So yeah, summing it up once again, if you want to live a high vibe evolving life, do not plan your future based on your current reality or based on facts, because you get to create your reality based on what you choose to believe. The only limits any of us have are the limits that we create for ourselves in the mind, or that others create for us and we surrender to.
Hell yeah. Love that one.
All right.
The next one is, do not numb and avoid feelings when you are having a bad day. So we did kind of talk about this a little bit in the beginning here, the importance of feeling your feels. And it's so easy to, at the end of the day, try to just turn your brain off, disconnect from whatever it is that you're feeling, whatever it is that's going on in your life, the things that are making you feel overwhelmed or stressed or anxious. It's easy sometimes to just block those things out instead of facing them, dealing with them, and feeling them. And so one tip I have for that is find a go-to self-care practice that works for you. And this, as you guys know, we share a ton of them on here. We talk about breath work, we talk about meditation, yoga. It could be a million other things. Maybe it's playing a sport of some sort, going for walks, like being outside in nature. there's so many different things, like calling a good friend and talking to a good friend about how you're feeling, like someone that you know, trust and can talk to about that sort of stuff. There are so many ways you could journal about it, but you need to find something. I think he is finding something that works for you. Because if it doesn't, if it feels very forced, like, oh, I should like doing this, but it just doesn't work for you, it's going to be a lot harder for that to be the thing that you turn to.
Mhm.
So start trying some of these things out when you're having those days, you know, when you catch yourself like just wanting to, you know, unplug and turn your brain off at the end of the day. See if you can dive a little bit deeper and see, you know, what's there for you. And I think you'll be amazed at what a shift it'll be and how you'll feel lighter after doing those kind of practices.
Yeah. And going along with that, when Mary says find a practice, I would recommend finding one that feels like you're feeling, because there's also such thing as spiritually bypassing. So for example, you guys know I'm going through like a lot of grief right now. And there definitely would be a way for me to like feel the grief coming on, feel the tears coming up, feel the pain coming up. I easily could just spiritually bypass that by going into a high vibe meditation, right? Which is like what I don't want to do, what none of us really want to do. Like that's one of the things to avoid is that numbing and avoiding. But a lot of the practices that Mary just explained could help you feel your feels, like talking about your feels, journaling about your feels. Breath work can definitely help you access and tap into and feel those feels. A silent meditation could help you feel your feels, right? Like just sitting with yourself. I did that so many times over the last 2 weeks. I would just sit with myself in silence for 10 to 12 minutes so I could tap into what's there and feel it. So just be intentional with the practices you're choosing, but numbing and avoiding. And like I said, I'm going through all this right now. I'm seeing family members right now because it's not a big family, like a medium-ish, small size family. And we all lost my grandma. You know, she had 3 kids, my dad, and then my aunt, my uncle. And then she had 7 of us granddaughters and 2 grandsons. And we were all very close with her. So I'm like watching everybody navigate it. And I'm seeing some of the numbing and avoiding and suppressing. And that's where, when I said earlier, like I tell people this is my pain to feel. It's my pain to have and to work through, because I know that just avoiding it, numbing it, or suppressing it is just going to lead to more chaos, anxiety, stress, overwhelm in the future. Anytime we suppress something and don't fully allow ourselves to feel it, it's just going to get worse, and it's going to lead to more numbing and destructive habits in the future. So if you want to live a high vibe evolving life, do not numb, avoid, and suppress your feels. Learn how to fully feel them and be with them.
So good.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to, what number are we on? 3?
Yes.
Okay. The third thing not to do.
Wait, that was the third thing. No, we're on number 4. I'm sorry.
Okay. The fourth thing and not to do if you want to live a high vibe and evolving life is, okay, so this is kind of a 2-in-1, but compare yourself. We've obviously talked about that before, comparing yourself to others. What I want to add to this, and Mary, I'll let you speak on this too, because I know that this lands with you as well, is don't creep on people who you compare yourself or your life to in general. So when I was brainstorming like what I wanted to bring to the show today, I was thinking back to when I was living that life that was like up and down and low vibe, and I was emotionally unstable and just like struggling with a lot of anxiety and self-doubt and insecurity. And one of the things that would make me feel like shit even more is, and I would do it so much out of habit, almost as a way to like numb and avoid and suppress what I was feeling, is I would jump on social media, I'd go to Instagram, and I would creep on all these people, both males and females, that I would compare myself to or my life to. And of course it would make me feel even shittier, but it was also a way for me to like numb and distract like what I was feeling. I don't know. It was like a really weird thing. So if you want to evolve in life and live high vibe, stop creeping on the people who you compare yourself to.
Yeah, I feel like we all have those people that we know trigger us, that, you know, maybe we want to admit it or not, but they're the people that either, you know, make us feel bad or don't make us feel good enough, or like feel like we need to live differently or change, like we're just not okay or worthy as we are. And it's funny how those people kind of shift and change over time. Like there are people that used to like do that for me. And yeah, it was like I would almost like seek those people and those pages out. I don't know why, like self-sabotage. I'm not sure what was going on there exactly, but it did my mental health no good at all.
Right.
And so the piece, like when we were talking about this one, the piece for me is social media can be such a beautiful thing, but it can also be such a dangerous thing. But we are in charge of who is in our social media world. You know, we follow and unfollow people, you know, we friend people on Facebook. Like you choose who is there. And I feel like now there's more tools for that because you can like block people and mute people. So like if it's maybe family or like someone, you know, that you are friends with and you don't want to like burn this bridge or like piss them off and following them, you can mute them and kind of ignore their content for a while or whatever. But be really mindful of who you are choosing to follow on social media and make sure that they are the pages that make you feel happy and inspired and uplifted so that you're not just filling your feeds with these pages that make you feel like shit at the end of the day.
Right. And adding on to that, just because I know you guys in the Pretty Vibe Tribe, you're here to do the freaking work. If there are people who are triggering you, of course, like, stop comparing yourself, mute them, do what you got to do. And at the same time, go inward and figure out why you're so triggered by this person. Do the work on yourself, because I have an example of a friend who I did this with. I muted this friend for probably about 2 months because everything that she posted was triggering me. And so I muted her because it was really like lowering my vibe. And at the same time, I realized that her posts and her stories triggering me had nothing to do with her and everything to do with me. So while she was muted, I went inward and I did the inner work that it took to figure out why she was so triggering to me and why I would like be so activated by her posts and her stories. And I unmuted her after I did the work on myself. And I'm to a place where now like none of her stuff triggers me anymore, but it's nothing like I just have an outpouring of love and support for her. So definitely, the thing to avoid doing is comparing yourself and creeping on people who bring down your vibe. Like stop freaking doing it. And at the same time, do the inner work on you that you need to do to not be so triggered. Because once again, we have another episode on this. Go back in the archives if you have to, but I think it's called Why to Be Grateful for Assholes. Triggers have everything to do with us and nothing to do with the person who's actually triggering us. So do that inner work.
I definitely agree with that, Sarah, because doing the work is that next step to go deeper. And it does. You'll be amazed when you do that work on yourself and then you go back and you look at that person's page and you're like, whoa, like, why did this get to me? Like, it reminds me of like when you have a boyfriend and you're like so in love, but it's like so toxic and then you break up or you like separate or whatever. And then you look back, you're like, how did I ever love that guy so much? Like, what was I attracted to? I feel like it was the same thing with these people. And there are a couple people that come to mind for me that it was a jealousy around their business. Their business was thriving. Their business was doing so well. Mine at the time was brand new. I was getting the hang of things. I didn't know what I was doing, so it wasn't doing that well. And I felt very jealous by that. And like that jealousy, like again, nothing on them. It was all me. Like I had this jealousy. I had this like worthiness and like the value that I could bring to the table for my clients and whatnot. And once I did the work around that and started shifting those internal beliefs, those pages like did not get to me anymore. Those people did not get under my skin or trigger me the way that they used to. So it's kind of cool to see that transition where you're like, whoa, this like used to drive me crazy. And now I love it. And I have nothing but love and support for this person.
Totally.
So very
good.
cool. All right. The last one. Don't gossip about others.
This one's so hard.
Guilty. Ooh, I know.
But it's true, you guys. Gossiping, talking poorly about others. Honestly, like I feel like gossiping and talking poorly about others, I would say is one and the same. But like if you're talking about somebody, even just to talk about them, it's like stop doing it. Because it's just change the topic of conversation.
And I feel like it just so much more about you than it does that other person.
Totally.
Like, it goes back to the whole triggering thing. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't have anything to do with that person that you're talking about. It's
Mhm.
you. You're triggered by that person, or there's something about them that bothers you and gets under your skin, and it's on you. So if you're doing that, like, that's not a high vibe practice. That's not going to leave you like feeling good
Mm-mm.
about yourself and the vibration that you want to be tapping into.
Mm-mm.
Um I feel like if you're living this full life and you're like exploring these new things and you're like trying these new practices, and like gossiping shouldn't even feel good when you're doing it. Like, if
Right.
it does, dig deeper there and see what's going on, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not a high vibe thing. And then you just think too, like, whenever I'm around someone who is constantly gossiping, all I think is like, well, what are they saying about me, when I'm not in their room? And it's just like, that's not, you don't want people thinking that about you. Like, that's
No.
again bringing and attracting a bad energy to your
Mm-mm.
life.
Yeah, just start observing the words that come out of your mouth in the conversations. And of course, like I feel like we grow up in these worlds where like a lot of people talk about other people and gossip about other people. And so just I know this one's hard, but start to observe your words and the topics of conversations that come out of your mouth. Just start with the observing and the general awareness of what you are saying to others and what your conversations are about in general. And then go from there. Because I know that when I started to shift out of this, I would really practice intentionally starting conversations that are uplifting and high vibe that had nothing to do with others. And if it did, like it was talking highly about somebody, like there's
Right.
nothing wrong with that. Like if you want to, like if I want to go, share with Zach how proud I am of Mary and how she's building this amazing business while she's a mom, and I admire her for that. Like that feels good, right? Like a conversation like that feels really good. So
Right.
just be more intentional about your conversations. It's not like you can't talk about others, but if you're talking about others, make sure you're doing it in a high vibe way. And if you want to go to talk about somebody poorly, and not to say that it's not okay to speak your truth and like speak up about the things that you're upset about, because that's a different
But
like
there's a way to
subject in
do that with
itself.
love. Like, yes, that's different. There's a way to do that in a loving way. You can
Right.
speak your truth from a place of love versus
Yeah.
a place of like, I'm talking shit about this person. Like, oh, did you hear what
Yeah.
she said? Or you believe what she just did? Like,
Right.
there's there's a way to do that. You can still share uncomfortable things
Yeah.
or bad things, if you want to call them that, like,
Mhm.
in a loving way,
Totally.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I mean, you guys
So,
know, you can feel it in your body. Literally, you can feel it in your body. Like if you are feeling like that low vibe, toxic energy in a conversation, whether you started the conversation or not, like this is gonna keep me vibrating lower. Or if it like triggers or activates somebody else. I'm just thinking of somebody in my head right now who, when this person starts to talk about somebody else, I shut it down really quickly. And then this person who I'm referring to gets angry when I shut it down. Like if you are talking about somebody and somebody else is like, I don't want anything to do with this conversation, and then you get angry, like that's also another indication that maybe it's a low vibe or toxic topic. So the
well, and
last
I just think
things,
about it too, like, interesting people don't talk bad about other people. They talk
yeah.
about ideas, they talk about things that are uplifting, like, they talk good about other people, like, they recognize the good. I feel like it's like boring people who are like, oh, this is just my way to contribute and be juicy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like doesn't take effort. It's not like, it's like a cop out.
Yeah.
Like, this has been like a goal. This has been a goal of mine many times, is, be interesting, like, have things to contribute that are gonna raise the vibe of everyone, instead of things that are just gonna like bring the conversation down.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, there you have it, you guys. The 5 things not to do if you desire to live a high vibe and evolving life. We hope you got so much out of this episode. Thank you all so much for listening. And per usual, do us a fave, go rate and review us if you haven't yet, because I think that's like the most important thing that you can do for us in exchange for us providing these shows to you guys. If you could give back to us by leaving us a rating and a review, that helps us. It helps us spread this show and the goodness that we have to bring to the table to others who need it. And we love seeing you guys share about our show on Instagram and spreading it to your followers that way. Of course, like that's such an amazing thing. That's like one of the ways that you can use Instagram or social media in general for the good of all.
Right.
And it's a way that you can really contribute to this ripple effect that we are creating. Because if you share this stuff on your Instagram or on your Facebook or your TikTok or wherever you hang out, that's your way of sharing it with others and getting others on this path to evolving and growing as well. So go do all the things. We love you guys so much. And we will talk to you here on the Her Vibe is Pretty podcast next week.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.